Okay, we're close now. Close enough that I wouldn't buy an iPhone 17 Pro today without waiting a few more weeks. Because the iPhone 18 Pro story has changed again. Not because of another color. Not because somebody posted another render. The latest leaks are now about things that actually hit your wallet and your daily use. Battery, storage, the camera, the chip, and one price number that could make a lot of people keep their old phone. I'll get to that price later. First, the date. Apple still hasn't sent the official invite, but as of August 11, MacRumors says Wednesday, September 9 is the most likely event date. Why September 9? Labor Day is September 7. The last normal year when Labor Day also landed on September 7 was 2015. Apple held the iPhone event on Wednesday, September 9 that year. So right now, September 9 is the date I'd keep free, not confirmed, but has a very good chance. And if Apple follows that old schedule again, pre-orders could start around Saturday, September 12. Then the iPhone 18 Pro could reach stores on Friday, September 18. There is also another possible schedule. Apple could wait until September 15. That would move pre-orders to September 18 and the release to around September 25. But right now, September 9 looks stronger. Now here's why that event matters more than usual. We have a lot of leaks, but some of them don't agree with each other. So September 9 may finally tell us which leaks were right and which ones were just noise. Take the front of the phone. For months, we kept hearing that Apple would move more of Face ID under the screen. That would make the dynamic island smaller. Recent SAID files and prototype-style images also show a narrower cutout. But there's now another leak saying Apple may keep the current size dynamic island and wait until iPhone 19 to shrink it. So we have two completely different stories. Smaller dynamic island, or almost no change. That is one of the first things I'd look at when Tim Cook shows the phone. The screen sizes themselves look much more settled. Around 6.3 inches for the iPhone 18 Pro. Around 6.9 inches for the Pro Max. Same basic sizes as last year, but the display is expected to move to LTPO+. That name is not exciting. The reason behind it is, it should use less power, so when your screen is on for hours messages, Instagram, Maps, YouTube, brightness outside, that display could be pulling less from the battery the whole time, and battery is where these two phones start going in very different directions. The smaller iPhone 18 Pro is rumored to have a 4,288 mAh battery in the US. The iPhone 17 Pro has 4,252 mAh. Do the math. That is only 36 mAh more. Less than 1%. Yeah, almost nothing. So if you like the smaller Pro, don't expect Apple to fix battery life simply by stuffing a huge battery inside it. But the Pro Max, completely different story. The US iPhone 18 Pro Max is now rumored at 5,567 mAh. The current US 17 Pro Max is 5,088 mAh. That is 479 mAh more. Almost a 10% increase. And the Chinese version has now shown up at 5,391 mAh in both a regulatory database and an alleged battery photo. That is why this leak is starting to look much stronger. So now I've got a question for you. Would you take a phone that is a little heavier for almost 500 mAh more battery? Because Apple may be asking Pro Max buyers to make exactly that trade. The Pro Max is rumored to be around 9 mm thick and roughly 240 grams. About 7 grams heavier than the 17 Pro. Some reports say the thickness increase could be much smaller, around 8.8 millimeters, so that part is still not fully settled. But the reason is easy to understand. More battery needs room. And the new camera may need more room too. That camera is probably the upgrade photographers should watch. Apple is expected to keep a 48 megapixel main camera, but the lens itself may change. The big rumor is variable aperture. Think of it like this. Right now, the phone mostly decides how light reaches the sensor. With a variable aperture, the lens can physically open wider or close down. More light when you need it, less light when the scene is too bright, and potentially more control over background blur. Now don't expect your iPhone to suddenly behave like a full-frame camera. The sensor is still small. That matters. But if Apple uses this properly, it could help in the exact places phones still struggle. Faces at night, bright lights behind someone, indoor shots, and photos where the phone pushes the processing too hard. That's much more useful than another megapixel number. And there may be another camera change hiding beside it. Apple is testing a larger aperture on the telephoto camera, more light into the zoom lens. That could mean less noise at night, faster shutter speeds, fewer blurry shots when someone moves, and better separation between a person and the background. There is even talk of a 3-layer stacked sensor from Samsung on at least one Pro model. That could improve speed, noise, and dynamic range. And Apple has reportedly looked at a teleconverter-style system for extra zoom reach. I would treat that last one carefully. It is being considered. It is not locked for launch. Then there's camera control. You know, the button people either use every day or forget exists. Apple may simplify it. The current version can react to touch and pressure. The iPhone 18 Pro version is expected to keep pressure sensing while removing the touch-sensitive layer and some of the extra haptic system. Why? Fewer parts, less cost, and probably fewer accidental swipes. Honestly, if you use camera control now, ask yourself how often you actually swipe on it. If the answer is almost never, Apple may be thinking the same thing. Now we get to the part inside the phone, and this one affects almost everything I just talked about. The iPhone 18 Pro is expected to use the A20 Pro, Apple's first iPhone chip built on TSMC 2nm process. The A19 generation is 3nm. TSMC process level numbers suggest up to around 15% more speed or around 30% better efficiency, depending on how Apple tunes the chip. That does not mean your iPhone will automatically be 30% faster. It doesn't. But efficiency could matter a lot more than raw speed this year. Remember that smaller Pro battery? Only 36 mAh more. So Apple really needs the screen, chip, and modem to save power. Otherwise, where is the battery gain supposed to come from? The Pro Max has it easier. It gets the efficiency improvements, plus almost 500 mAh more battery. That is why I think battery tests could make the Pro Max look very different from the smaller Pro this year. And the chip itself is also changing inside. A 20 is expected to use a new package called WMCM. Forget the name. The useful part is this. Apple can put the RAM much closer to the CPU, GPU, and neural engine. That can help speed. It can help power use. And it can make the whole chip package smaller. Sounds great, until you see what it costs. TSMC 2nm chips are reportedly at least 50% more expensive to make than comparable 3nm chips. And memory costs are even worse. This is the leak that changed the whole price story this week. TrendForce now estimates the 256GB iPhone 18 Pro costs Apple around 38% more to build than the 256GB iPhone 17 Pro. 38%. And memory is the main problem. A year ago, memory was around 10% of the phone's component cost. TrendForce says it is now around 34%, and it could go above 40% in early 2027. That is crazy. And Apple is feeling it badly enough that it is now changing the way it buys parts. Apple reportedly used to keep around 4 weeks of OLED panels in reserve. Now it is holding closer to 6 weeks. Apple normally hates keeping extra inventory. It costs money. So when Apple starts stockpiling parts, you know it is worried about what happens next. It gets even stranger. Around $1 billion worth of Apple processors are reportedly sitting at TSMC waiting for memory chips. The A20 Pro chip itself may be ready, but because the RAM is part of this new package, TSMC can't simply finish the processor now and add the memory later. It needs both at the same time. That means September could have another problem. Stock. Apple and its partners think they can meet the first wave of orders, but stores could sell through quickly. Online shipping dates could start moving out. Last year, some new iPhones were already pushed into October during the pre-order rush. This year, Apple has the memory shortage on top of that, and there is no regular iPhone 18 coming in September to take some of that demand. That is another big change. Apple is splitting the lineup. The iPhone 18 Pro, 18 Pro Max, and the foldable iPhone are expected this fall. The regular iPhone 18, iPhone 18e, and second-generation iPhone Air are expected around spring 2027. So imagine you walk into an Apple store this September. You want the new generation, but you don't want the foldable. Your choices may basically start with the Pro. That puts even more pressure on Pro stock. And now we can finally talk about the number I think people are going to argue about most. Price. The current iPhone 17 Pro starts at $1,099. The 17 Pro Max starts at $1,199. IDC thinks Apple could add around $200. That would put the iPhone 18 Pro around $1,299, and the Pro Max around $1,399. But that is not the worst estimate. The Wall Street Journal has discussed an iPhone 18 Pro starting as high as $1,399. And analyst Jeff Pu has talked about increases of up to $300. Under that kind of increase, you could be looking at roughly $1,399 for the Pro. And $1,499 for the Pro Max. Not confirmed, but no longer a crazy rumor either. And yesterday we got one more detail that makes that price harder to swallow. The iPhone 18 Pro is still expected to start with 256GB, not 512GB. The iPhone 16 Pro started at 128GB. The 17 Pro moved to 256GB. The 18 Pro is expected to stay at 256GB. So if Apple charges $200 or $300 more, you may not even get more base storage for that money. That is going to be a fun slide to explain. Here is the new iPhone 18 Pro. Same 256GB starting storage, maybe $1,399. Would you buy it? Seriously. At what point do you look at your current phone and say, you know what, this is still fine? And Apple may even raise the price of the older iPhone 17 models at the same time. TrendForce thinks Apple could spread the higher costs across the lineup rather than put the full increase only on the 18 Pro. So waiting for the 18 Pro launch and then buying a much cheaper 17 Pro may not work as well as it normally does. There is still some good news. Apple may take part of the hit itself. TrendForce thinks Apple could accept a slightly lower margin rather than pass every dollar to buyers. Apple is also reportedly trying to get lower prices from other suppliers. And the very expensive foldable iPhone could give Apple more room at the top of the lineup. So $1399 is not guaranteed. That is exactly why September 9 matters. There is also the modem story. Earlier reports pointed to Apple's new C2 modem. More efficiency, better cellular performance, and possibly 5G through satellites that could let supported apps use data even when normal cell service is gone. But now there is a twist. A supplier-related leak suggests US models may still use Qualcomm parts, while some international phones could use Apple's C2. The reason may be millimeter wave 5G. If Apple's C2 still doesn't fully handle the US millimeter wave setup, Apple may need Qualcomm there one more year. That is not settled yet. But if it happens, two iPhone 18 Pros sold in two countries could have slightly different modem hardware inside, and satellite may be much more useful this time. Reports say Apple is working toward 5G satellite connectivity, possibly data for things like maps, photos, and third-party apps when normal coverage disappears. I would not call it unlimited satellite safari on launch day. Carriers, regions, and plans will matter. But it could move satellite from emergency feature to something you use when you simply have no signal. Then there's Apple's N2 wireless chip. N1 already handles Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 6, and Thread in recent Apple devices. N2 is expected in the iPhone 18 Pro. We don't have a clean number for how much better it will be yet, so I wouldn't make up one. I'd watch for things you can actually feel. Better hotspot stability, more reliable AirDrop, less messing around when accessories connect. Design. Don't expect a brand new phone. Apple is saving the much bigger iPhone redesign for later. The 18 Pro should still look a lot like the 17 Pro, but the camera plateau may grow. Dummy models suggest the Pro Max camera area could reach around 1154mm, up from 11.23mm, with the lens area reaching about 13.77mm total. So yes, the camera bump may get even bigger. The back could look cleaner though. Apple may reduce the two-tone look around the MagSafe area, more even color across the back, and the headline new finish is expected to be dark cherry, alongside light blue, dark gray, and silver. Cosmic orange and deep blue are expected to disappear. Nice. But I'm not paying $1399 because the red looks good. For that money, I want the stuff I feel every day. Battery, camera, signal, heat, and how long the phone stays fast when I'm actually using it. That is why September 9 could change the whole conversation. Right now, the leaks give us two very different iPhone 18 Pro stories. One story sounds great. A 20 Pro on 2mm variable aperture, better telephoto, LTPO+, possible satellite data, almost 10% more battery on the Pro Max. A smaller dynamic island maybe. Then you look at the other story. The smaller Pro gets less than 1% more battery. Base storage stays at 256 GB. The phone could cost $200 to $300 more. Build cost is estimated to be 38% higher, and there may not even be enough stock for everyone at launch. That is why I don't think September 9 is just another iPhone event. Apple has to answer some uncomfortable questions. How much better is battery life on the smaller Pro? Does the Pro Max really get that 5.5 and 67 Ah battery? Is the dynamic island actually smaller? How useful is variable aperture? Does the US model use C2 or Qualcomm? What can satellite really do? And then the big one, what number appears on the price slide? Because if that number is $1299, people will complain, but a lot will still buy. If it is $1399 for the regular Pro, that gets harder. And if the Pro Max lands around $1499, then every extra feature suddenly has to prove itself. So I'm watching September 9 for one simple reason. Not because every leak will be right. It won't. I'm watching because that may be the day all these rumors finally have to face the same question, is this phone actually worth the new price? And if Apple says pre-orders open September 12 with a September 18 launch, I would not wait until later that day if you already know you want one. With the memory shortage and the stock warnings we have now, the popular Pro Max colors and storage options could move to long shipping dates very quickly. The leaks have told us almost everything. September should tell us what actually survived, and most importantly, how much Apple wants us to pay for it.